Hi everyone, Melissa from Collecting Dreamcatcher here. This is a bit of a different video from my usual, mostly because there's no waving hands in it. Today I wanted to go over budgeting and tips for budgeting and collecting. On Instagram, I see a lot of people wanting to save money and also collect, so I thought I'd share the method that I use for budgeting, saving, and collecting. I do want to add a disclaimer that I'm not a financial advisor or a financial professional, but just someone sharing their personal method. I'm going to be using all fictional numbers for a fictional person in Canadian dollars for my example. Nothing here is accurate, and I made up the numbers as I went. This is also meant that these numbers should not be compared against anything because I didn't do any research for how much things cost. I was just throwing numbers into it and made them up as I go, so they're not meant to be accurate. Now that the disclaimer is over, I'm going to get into describing my approach. Since budgeting is a very personal thing, I'm just going to be showing the techniques and tips for setting up and using your own budgeting sheet for collecting. I'm not going to be using any personal information of my own or based on anyone else. It's all going to be very general and made up, just numbers that I put in as I was making the spreadsheet. So really the only thing you'll need to do this is a spreadsheet software. I personally use Google Sheets so that I can have the app on my phone and be able to update the numbers on the fly. But you can also use things like Excel or if there's another tool that you prefer. Since I did create this Google Sheet, I'm going to be sharing the link to this sample one in the description box below. This way you can copy and paste it into your own software and use it as a base and then customize it to fit your own needs. So I hope that'll help make budgeting a little bit simpler, that you will already have something to start with. So to start, I have my Google Sheet open and I'll describe how I have it set up. So the bottom tabs are created for each month. So I have this one set up for the next 4 months. And at the end of each month, I go in and create the next month. So I do this just to make sure that I am prepared for the next month and that I don't fall behind. But this is totally optional. I make it part of my routine to update my spreadsheets at the end of each month, and it's a good way to get in a habit if you set a reoccurring event in your phone calendar with reminders. But again, this is optional. I just find it helps me stay prepared and not fall behind. But you can always do it on a month-to-month basis and set it up as you need it. When a month is done, I rename the spreadsheet with brackets and then I put past in all capitals and move it to the end. So you'll see me do this later on in my time lapse. But I usually find that if I do it this way, if I ever have like a question or I forget how much maybe I spent on something, I can just easily go back to that month. But I never get confused and accidentally add numbers to the wrong spreadsheet. I make it very clear that that one is an old one. So now for the setup of the spreadsheet, I have a 5-column spreadsheet. The first column has the categories I'm keeping track of. So this includes things like income, phone payments, food expenses, etc. These categories will be unique based on your spending habits and like what you spend your money on. So like if you have car payments or if you have rent or you have other expenses, you would include them here. The second column is for deposits. So this is the amount of money that is going into your savings account. So this is usually under income and what you're making maybe from a job, or if you have an allowance or however you're making money, you would put it in here in the deposits section. And then the third column is withdrawals. So this is the amount of money that's coming out of your account from expenses, just spending your money. The fourth column shows the percentage of your spending. So this way you can check how much you're spending on things. So for example, if 50% of your spending is going to one area like eating out and you want to reduce this so you can save, you're a bit more aware of your spending habits and where you're spending your money. So I find that this really helps find ways if you're like struggling to save money and you're wondering where you can cut costs. It's a good idea to look at these percentages, and if it's something you can cut, like maybe eating out or buying new clothes or something like that, it's just a good way to be aware and be able to save your money. And then the fifth column is notes. So this is where I typically write what I purchased and what I used to pay for it. So for example, if I use my debit card or credit card or cash, I'll just make a note of it. You can be as detailed as you want in this section, and it also is totally optional, but I do recommend doing a notes section. I try to be more detailed to make it easier for when I have to review the form at the end of the month. It just helps me keep track of everything and know if I had spent something. If I was looking at the number and I'm like, why is it so high? I can look in the notes and see exactly what I spent it on. So it just helps you go back and make sure that you didn't make an error and you're calculating everything and it's accurate. And then at the bottom are the totals of the deposits and the withdrawals, and then below that is the amount you saved if your withdrawals are less than your deposits. So overall for collecting and saving, I found that there's two good approaches that you can take, but these are likely not the only two approaches that you can take. And if you have another way, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to read them. For me, these are just the two approaches that worked, but I'm sure there are others. But I'll just be using these two for my example today. You can either determine how much you want to spend on your collection each month before you start budgeting, but like in this example that I have going on the screen, this example person who is not real, but just what I decided for this person is that they want to spend a maximum of $50 each month on their collection. So that's the first approach you can do, is you can go through and say, I only want to spend $50. I know that's how much I want to spend, and that is the maximum. Or if this seems really daunting and you have no idea how much you want to spend each month, you can do a test month where all you do is track your expenses and then decide what is a reasonable amount for you, so you can see how much you're spending on each category, and then from there base how much you want to spend for collecting. So as I mentioned before, for this example, since it's a fake person, I'm going to say that they want to spend a maximum of $50 each month on their collection. And I broke the $50 out between K-pop albums and K-pop photo cards. Again, this can be customized based on what you spend your money on. But I find that when I split it out for this example person, they mostly spend their money on albums and photo cards. So all they want is for the total amount of those two columns to be $50. So whether it's 10 and 40 or 30 and 20, 20 and 30, whatever makes sense or whatever they spent, as long as it doesn't go over $50, then they're happy and they are budgeting well for this example. Of course, your numbers will likely be different. Step 1 is to fill in your chart. So as you go, you can decide the best ways to lump your spending, so you can keep the side descriptions the same as me, or if you have different things that you spend your money on, you can put them in and really customize this to fit what you spend your money on each month. But the first step is to track all your spending for the month. When it comes down to putting in your income, make sure you're always putting in the amount after taxes, which is the exact amount that is being added to your bank account. This may be simple, but I just wanted to make a note because I am using an example account where I just put in random numbers. So I just wanted to make sure that you know that anything after taxes for what you are making is what you want to put into this spreadsheet. And then some other areas that are key for savings, I noted them under step 2 on the spreadsheet. So these areas let you prioritize your savings to make sure that you're on track for saving for important things like paying for school, possibly buying a car, down payment on a home, etc. So for this example person that I created, they are saving for a car, they're saving for university, and then they are saving for a future K-pop comeback. We can say it is a Dreamcatcher comeback. But again, this is all fake. This allows you to figure out how much you have to put away each month to reach your savings goals. So for example, my example person here is planning on buying a used car in a year for $5,000, and they've already saved up $2,000. So to hit their goal in 12 months, they will have to save $250 every month for the 12 months in order to have enough for their car. So this is a good way to keep track of what you're spending and how much you're saving and ensure you hit these important milestone goals. So I replicated this approach for saving for university as well as the future K-pop comeback. You determine how many months away the event or when you want to purchase or when you have to spend this money is, how much you need, and then you divide it to see how much you have to save each month. Once you've determined how much you need to save each month to reach your savings goals, and you've determined how much you have spent and saved in the main budget, which was step 1, we can move on to step 3. So step 3 is underneath the main budget table in my form, and this has a savings breakdown as well as a math reference table. Again, when you're building your own, if my approach or layout doesn't work, feel free to customize and make this work for you, because again, this is a very personal thing, budgeting, but I'm just hoping that this general approach will help. So under step 3, the first table helps you ensure you're meeting the amount you need to save to reach your goals, and shows how much additional money you will have to just add to your savings account for like a rainy day, or just to save for the general future, but not putting it towards something. And then to make the math easier, there's a table below it that I used. So it takes the total amount of leftover savings, so that was the amount in step 1, the difference between your deposits and your withdrawals. And then it subtracts the amount that you needed in step 2 to hit your goals, and it ensures that you have enough to hit these goals, and that it tells you how much money you have left over for your general savings. So all the cells are linked to make it easier if you make changes in one cell, that it will cross over across your whole table, so you don't have to go in and individually make changes. But I won't say I'm an expert in this or an expert in Excel or Google Sheets. So if you do have a better way to automate it, like, feel free to make the changes so that this is an easy process for you. Because again, you don't want to make it difficult. You want to make this a helpful tool. So then, as you can see at the bottom, I've done a few months for this example and how I manage the documents, again, adding the past for some old ones and then leaving some new ones ready to go. And again, I'll leave the link to the document in the description so you can refer to it and copy it into your own budget document, or use it as a reference or a starting point to just make this process easier. So to recap on the specifics of Kpop collecting and how to budget for collecting, because I am a collecting channel, I'm going to go over the main specific things that I encourage people to do to help them save specifically for Kpop. But this can be replicated on other things that you're saving for. So in the beginning, this individual in my example had set a limit for the amount that they were willing to spend each month on their collection. And in this example, it was $50 every month they were willing to max out for their collection, no higher. Then the person would also be saving for the comebacks. So this was shown in step 2. They determined how much they would need roughly to save for the comeback, and roughly how many months they had to save, and determined how much should be put away each month to ensure that they had enough for when the comeback happens. Usually this is just an average, because we don't usually know the specific dates, especially right after a comeback, but it's better to guess on the higher end and save more money than you end up needing, because then you can just put that money towards something else or general savings, but you just have enough for your collection as well as other things. It can also help if you start saving for future comebacks right after a comeback. This might not always be possible, but you can always start as a plan and plan out how you want to save for a future comeback. And then that way you are having to put away less money each month for that comeback, and it can just help reduce some stress. But if that's not possible, always having a plan is a good idea. So I will share a personal tip, and my personal rule of thumb is that if I do ever go over on my Kpop collecting amount, the following month I will spend less to make up for it, because it's all about balance. So to relate it back to my example that I've been going through here, if my person's maximum was $50 and one month there was unexpected merch for, let's say, like a concert, and they had to spend $70, the month after that they would spend a maximum of $30 to make up for spending over in the previous month. So this way they maintain that balance. I find planning and preparing far in advance and sticking to my plan really helps minimize some of the stress of collecting. So I wanted to share this with others because I know it can be really stressful, and it shouldn't be, because it is a hobby and it's supposed to be fun, so you obviously don't want it to be stressful. So I decided to share this method in case it helped anybody. I just want them to, enjoy collecting and see the joy and have fun with it. That I wanted to share a tool I use that really helps minimize the stress And even if it helps one person, I would be so happy that it would help them just, have that joy again in collecting. And that's it for my approach for tracking and spending and budgeting. So this can be applied to K-pop collecting, but also for saving for bigger purchases. Of course, as I stated in the beginning, this is just my approach, and I'm not a financial advisor or planner, and I'm just hoping that my approach can help others save and feel less stressed as they collect their faves. So that's it for this week's video. If you like this video, please subscribe to see more collecting and Dreamcatcher related content. If this helps even one person feel less stressed and more prepared for collecting, I'll be really happy. So stay safe and have fun, and let me know if this helps you. Thank you, everyone. Bye!